In this exciting episode, Perry gets paranormal. Well, not quite. But this 1988 made-for-TV movie has more scary moments than seasons 5 through 7 combined. It's the fifth Perry Mason made-for-TV movie, The Case of the Sinister Spirit. Welcome to the Perry Pod. I'm your humble host, Jonathan Searcy. My purpose here is pretty simple. I aim to provide an audio companion for every episode of television's greatest legal drama, Perry Mason. I'm also going to make time for the made-for-TV movies, too. In each episode, I present a plot summary, delve into some key pieces of trivia, explore a key theme, and finally head to the water cooler to discuss the ins and outs of past cases, just like Perry, Della, and Paul. I've been on hiatus for the past few months, thanks to those of you who have written me notes and asked when the pod would be back. I plan on doing one episode a month until summertime. I'll be focusing on those made-for-TV movies from the 1980s and 90s. Then, Lord willing, I'll do the entirety of Perry Mason Season 3 in the summer of 2022. But now, let's start talking legal turkey again, shall we? By going to the law library. Libel, it's nobody's friend. As the case of the Sinister Spirit begins, publisher Jordan White discovers a fictionalized version of himself in his author's new novel. Wouldn't you know it, it's not a flattering portrayal. Incensed, White calls his friend Perry for support. Here's the problem. Does a fictional portrayal of someone count as libel?
You have to ask yourself three things, Jordan. First, is anyone else going to see similarities between the Whitney character and you?
Everybody who knows me will. That's a lot of people.
Was there any malicious intent on David's part?
There sure was. Well, he thinks he got a raw deal when he published his last book. This is his way of getting back at me.
Third, don't you think you should at least talk to him before you go suing him?
Here is the sticky wicket. On the one hand, the fictional representation has to be obvious enough that other people can figure out that the supposedly fictional character has a real-life counterpart. And then on the other hand, the character must somehow not be like the real person in such a way as to defame the person's public reputation. Jordan White isn't mad because author David Hall portrayed him as a Nobel Peace Prize contender, of course. The representation makes White look bad by bringing up his drowned child. Want some real-life legal examples? Well, Joe Klein in Random House got sued by a minor player in Klein's novel Primary Colors. You may remember this novel from the 90s. It was a roman à clef about the Clinton presidential campaign. Dick Wolf, the producer of Law and Order, got sued by a New York attorney named Ravi Batra for an episode that got ripped a little too closely from the headlines. And apparently, the 2013 film The Wolf of Wall Street also spawned a defamation lawsuit. While judges do let these cases make it to a courtroom, I've yet to find one that resulted in a big win for the plaintiff. As for the case of the Sinister Spirit, it's murder, not libel, that's on the docket for Perry and co. So let's get to the plot of the movie, shall we? The Case of the Sinister Spirit. We open with Perry walking through a hotel ballroom while eerie music plays. Suddenly, a grand chandelier falls on our intrepid hero's head. Perry? Murder victim? No, it was an honest-to-goodness dream sequence. Perry has been reading The Resort, the newest thriller by David Hall, as a favor to his friend Jordan White, who's Hall's publisher. Hall's book includes a falling chandelier sequence, although the book couldn't have been that thrilling if Perry fell asleep while reading it. Just saying. Anyhow, Jordan White, played by Robert Stack, is upset with Hall and wants to sue. But before he takes Hall to court, White decides to talk with Hall in person. In true thriller fashion, Hall has bought access to an entire hotel in Colorado, shades of The Shining, and convened other real people who he's portrayed in the same novel to discuss their annoyance with him. There is psychic Donald Sayer.
It's all right if you don't remember. Actually, we've never met.
He wants you and the rest of America to believe he's a psychic.
Astrologer Michael Light.
Well, you've probably seen my picture in the papers. I do a syndicated column.
Oh, yes, of course. You're the astrologer.
Quite so. I have a small gift for doing astrological charts.
Actress Mara McGuire.
I starred in the movie they made of David's second novel. You know, Cry of the Dead.
I thought you were marvelous. I've never seen anyone look quite so dead and yet so attractive.
And Hall's unctuous secretary, Andrew Lloyd.
Were your duties as Mr. Hall's assistant?
Absolutely everything. From transposing his manuscripts from legal pads to floppy disks to ordering the groceries to answering the telephone well, David didn't refer to me as his assistant. He referred to me as his head mechanic.
They each have problems with Hall, and they each experience Hall's twisted sense of humor as Hall plays cruel practical jokes that prey upon their past sins and shortcomings. For instance, Jordan White's son drowned, and so White hears a creepy kid calling to him and then discovers a coffin with a pop-up kid mannequin. Eesh. Well, justifiably, White is hopping mad. He goes to have it out with Hall on the roof of the hotel, but arrives too late. Hall gets tossed off a high tower. In his possession, a torn photograph, the other half of which is in White's coat pocket. The scene the photograph captures, White kissing a woman he had an affair with while separated from his wife. It looks like White had a motive for murder.
Very attractive blonde you're with, Mr. White. You see, I think there was somebody else up there in that tower with Mr. Hall. I think he and Mr. Hall argued over this picture. And it was torn when Mr. Hall fell. No, let's make that when Mr. Hall was pushed.
The only witness to the crime, Susan Warrenfeld, the heiress of the hotel owner. Before long, she starts seeing creepy things in the hotel too. Nothing too serious, just your run-of-the-mill hallucinations about paintings shedding tears and figures emerging from the wall. Standard operating procedure for a thriller. Perry comes to Colorado to try the case. Della takes the train. Paul Drake Jr. gets in on the action and almost immediately starts running romantic game on Susan Warrenfeld. She's the key witness, Paul. Go easy on her.
Susan, it's all right, it's me.
Get after me!
Who? Susan, crying out loud, girl. This is a painting. Paintings do not come to life.
This one did. That's it for me. I'm out of here. I'm getting as far away from here as I can.
What someone wants you to do, Susan.
Why?
Because you're a witness to a murder. It has something to do with that.
What? What are we supposed to do? Huh?
Someone's doing a number on you.
Meanwhile, Michael Reston plays the wandering DA who somehow gets jurisdiction over the case. I don't know. He's gonna lose here too. My suspicion is that the local Denver DA knew Perry would end up winning and didn't want to take the L. The case hinges on Warrenfeld's recollection of what she saw the night of the murder and Hall's mysterious secretary. Perry coaxes a major revelation out of Warrenfeld when she's recalled to the stand. As the murder victim fell to the ground, he said, "What?"
What is it you don't understand?
What he's yelling as he's falling, I can hear him even though I'm screaming too.
What is he yelling?
He's yelling David. Why is he saying his own name?
Who actually was the murder victim? It was the secretary?
Isn't it true that it was Andrew Lloyd who fell from the tower?
No.
Isn't that why Miss Warrenfield heard the victim scream David as he fell? Because you, David Hall, pushed Andrew Lloyd off that tower.
No, no, no!
That's right. David Hall systematically swapped his identity with his own secretary, down to the cover photo on the novels he wrote, then killed him when the secretary threatened to spill the beans. The fact that he could implicate White in the process, all the better. And he would have gotten away with it too if it hadn't been for that meddling Mason. Now, let's get trivial, shall we? Each episode in our trivia section, I give you 3 takeaways, a Paul, a Della, and a Perry. Paul gives us a topic worth further investigation. Our Della offers a deep dive into the career of one of the episode's actors or actresses. And our Perry gives us a key fact about our intrepid hero. For this episode, our Paul involves Michael Reston, the wandering DA, and the explanation we get for why he's trying this case instead of, the Denver DA.
Seems to me I run into you wherever I go.
How reassuring.
Yes, isn't it?
Mr. Reston?
Your Honor, the prosecution is confident that it will have no problem proceeding in its case against the defendant, no matter how swiftly Mr. Mason would have the wheels of justice spin.
Our Paul prompt, is this a thing? Do we have wandering gunslinger DAs trying to show up for publicity-heavy cases? My intuition is this is a bit of Hollywood nonsense meant to A, allow the Perry crew not to have to portray Colorado like it's LA, the episode was actually shot in Colorado, and B, get David Ogden Stiers that sweet paycheck. What does the research say? Our Della for this episode, Robert Stack. Here are 9 facts about the man who played Jordan White.
I wake you, Perry? I want to catch you before you checked out.
1. He was born in 1919, raised in Italy. In fact, he could speak French and Italian fluently and didn't learn English until his family moved back to the States when he was 7. Number 2. Though his birth name was Charles Langford Modini Stack, his father gave him the name Robert, which stuck. Number 3. At the age of 16, Stack was a member of the All-American Skeet Team. His brother was too. Number 4. Clark Gable, family friend. Stack got into the movies in 1939 with the film First Love. An early film role put Stack alongside Jack Benny and Gable's wife, Carol Lombard, in Ernst Lubitsch's classic To Be or Not to Be. Number 5, Stack served as an aerial gunnery officer and instructor for the U.S. Navy during World War II. Went back to Hollywood after the war. Number 6, Stack was most frequently a pilot in his screen roles. Here's just a few of the films where he portrayed a pilot. Eagle Squadron, To Be or Not to Be, A Date with Judy, Saberjet, The High and the Mighty, The Gift of Love, The Tarnished Angels, and most famously, Written on the Wind, in a role for which Stack received an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Number 7, the second half of Stack's career was largely spent on TV, first as Elliot Ness in The Untouchables. Stack won an Emmy for the show, which ran from 1959 to 1963, and then as the host of Unsolved Mysteries from 1987 to 2002. Fun fact, before Unsolved Mysteries became a series, it was a special periodically hosted by Carl Malden and, that's right, Raymond Burr, Perry connection. Number 8, Stack got into comedic acting in the late 70s and 80s, beginning with Steven Spielberg's war farce 1941, which poked fun at Stack's pilot persona, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention his performance in 1980's Airplane, also hilarious. Number 9, Stack married Rosemary Stack in 1956. The couple had 2 children and were married until Stack's death from heart failure in 2003. 47 years. Way to go, Robert. Our Perry for this episode involves that chandelier. Number 1, I think this is the first time we've ever seen a dream sequence in Perryland, and it's our ever-vigilant hero who's sleeping on the job. You gotta take care of yourself, Perry. And number 2, the dream comes true halfway through the episode when Perry nearly gets el-kabonged by the actual hotel chandelier. I don't think the life of our intrepid hero has been directly threatened since Sergeant Jaffrey pulled a gun on him in the climactic scene of the series pilot, The Case of the Moth-Eaten Mink. If you can think of another time when Perry's life has actually been in danger, let me know. The theme for The Case of the Sinister Spirit: fear. Fear runs rampant through the episode's characters, and I think the producers were trying to produce a little fear in the audience too. This episode's kind of creepy. The sequence involving White's dead son may be the single creepiest thing I've ever seen in a Perry-related show or movie. Admittedly, these characters have reasons to be frightened. They're broken human beings who have things for which to either feel guilty or ashamed. As St. Paul reminds us, only perfect love can cast out fear. So that leaves Perry and Della in good stead because they've got love, so they don't worry too much, although Della takes the train. Actually, Barbara Hale did like to take trains places and got to Colorado from LA via the train. It looks like Jordan White will also find love in this situation that could have caused him fear, as Perry arranges for him to reunite with his wife as the case ends. Good for him. As for the bemulleted Paul Drake Jr. and hotel heiress Susan Warrenfeld, I'm thinking a long-term relationship with the son of everyone's favorite detective might be a frightening proposition. Be thankful Paul's going back to LA, Susan. Speaking of which, it's time for a Perry proverb. Well, the case is over. Perry, Della, and Paul are heading home. But Perry wants to get one last dig in at his old pal's son. He's got some strong words for his stalwart PI, and this time he attributes his proverb to someone else.
When I passed the Warrenfield picture this morning, I heard something.
You're kidding.
No. I stopped. I stared. I swear I heard his voice.
Well, what did he say?
He said, "Tell Paul Drake to keep the hell away from my granddaughter."
And scene. I can't say I disagree. Tell us how you really feel, Perry. Now, let's grab a swig from the water cooler.
There is one thing I don't understand. Go on, Paul.
Well, it's been a while since our last episode. I wanted to give a shout out to the listeners who've taken the time to send me emails over the past few months. Trivia Maven Nancy, Tim Cree, Rob Walton, Ethan, Susan Warner, Stacy, someone named Lee Marvin. No, not that Lee Marvin. And of course, my Aunt Myra and parents have been in touch regarding the Perry Pod's future, and I've been thankful for their dedication. I look forward to doing an episode a month as 2022 begins, and then hitting season 3 with a vengeance, Lord willing, when summer rolls around. Just a note to anyone who's interested in catching up on the Perry Mason novels for some kind of wacky reading commitment goal in 2022. Scribd, Scribd, which is an e-subscription service that gives you access to audiobooks and ebooks, has a ton of the Earl Stanley Gardner novels available. The service is only $9.99 a month, and you can't beat that with a stick. I've been a subscriber for 3 years and find at least one book a month that makes it worth the price of admission. This isn't a paid advertisement. I've just noticed recently that in the wake of the Perry Mason reboot on HBO, a lot of the Gardner novels are back in circulation. So if you've never read them or want to read them again for the first time, Scribd might be your most economic choice. Join me next time as I review the 6th made-for-TV Perry Mason movie, The Case of the Married Madam. Join me, won't you? Until then, this is Jonathan Searcy saying, keep on walking that Park Avenue beat.